5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Full course yellow is deployed. Full course yellow is deployed.
Yes, and with the dulcet tones of Eduardo Freitas ringing in our ears, we welcome you to another edition of Full Course Yellow, in Pit Lane's regular Thursday night motorsport chat. And how long we've got the dulcet tones of Eduardo Freitas, we're not sure, because I'm waiting for the cease and desist letter to come out after his good friend and someone who worked with him for many years, Lisa Crampton, was our guest on In Pit Lane on Tuesday night. And if you haven't seen the interview with Lisa, we covered like that much of an incredible CV, an astonishing motorsport CV, including several years alongside of Eduardo Freitas in the World Endurance Championship, and of course, this year coming straight off of a victory with Q Racing and Audi Sport in the Dakar Rally. So we had so much to talk about and so little time. We also had Miss Fribby and the Femmes, and if you didn't get a chance to see and hear them, go to the In Pit Lane YouTube channel, check out our show from this Tuesday, because it was absolutely insane. I've just got back in from, I've been in the studio all day today, because I'm not doing anything to do with In Pit Lane or motorsport, but in fact helping out on a grand final special for Channel 31 tomorrow. The Sports Desk guys from Sin FM here in Melbourne have done a television special to preview the grand final over the weekend. So I was in there giving them a hand today. So I've been sort of, going since about 5 o'clock this morning. So we might be taking a bit of an early break on the program tonight so I can go to bed. So anyway, joining me on the program tonight, it's a small but elite group joining us. Alongside me, there is Peter Johnson, and from Queensland, Mark Jones. G'day, guys. How are we?
I'm all right. How are you, Brett?
And you're still muted, Mark. Mark is still on mute.
There we go. And you missed out on my dulcet intonation of the Brisbane Lions song.
Well, we'll have to go out on that. So we know who you'll be barracking for on the weekend, but we'll also find out. Unfortunately, as you say, you'll have to take sort of the tiny little television or something, if they still make such things, or the iPad, so you can actually watch it on there while you're commentating on the XL 300 that's happening this weekend up there.
Nankang 300, indeed, yes.
Yeah.
But I would never be so unprofessional as to watch something else at the same time as I was commentating on something at Queensland Race. I'd never do that.
No. None of us would, says who you had the stream on from Sandown while commentating at Calder. But anyway, that's coming up. There, obviously Bathurst just around the corner too, and also we've got all of we got the aftermath of the Singapore Grand Prix as well, and what appears to be Daniel Ricciardo's last race. Officially, we still don't know. Officially, no one is saying anything. It's pretty obvious from everything that happened there that it is Daniel's last hurrah, and if so, I think they've handled it very, very badly. I mean, because as things stand at the moment, after everybody said their warm goodbyes to him and all that, we get sort of to Austin, it's like, no, he's still out to our driveway. He's still required. It'll look a bit silly after all the tearful farewells.
Yeah, it doesn't really. I mean, the sincerity bypass there was impressive.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I mean, the reaction to Daniel's departure. I mean, obviously, it shows how popular he is that he won the drive of the day despite finishing basically last, albeit with a fastest lap. But obviously, people sort of are saying a fond farewell to him. He's come out today, and I will have to bring up the banners as the ticker as well, actually, because I didn't put it up there. But yeah, he's come out today and said basically he's not interested in any sort of reserve driver role, whether it's with Red Bull or anybody else. It's as he said, it's basically if that's it, if his time as a full-time Formula One driver is over, then his time in Formula One is probably over as well. So it's looking increasingly like Daniel himself. If they haven't made the decision, I think Dan himself has pretty much drawn a line through his career, and it's not as if he's going to be short of a quid or anything. As someone, he lives in Monaco with a supermodel, and has a nice yacht and lovely car collection, and probably never ever has to work again if he doesn't want to. But I have no doubt that he'll be in very big demand for a lot of things, particularly in the media. So what do we think of Singapore? I mean, it's never the most exciting race, but it always looks pretty.
Yeah.
Pete?
Go, Pete.
But for me, they set Daniel up for a fall, I think, because they declared in practices that the soft tyre was nowhere. And it was true. On the medium tyre, yes, he was in the top 10. And yes, Yuki was higher than him. But in practices, and then they proceed to, I don't know if there's a rule in qualifying where you're supposed to start on the soft tyre and nothing else. But again, if there isn't, I thought they could have used the medium tyre in qualifying and brought him up in qualifying.
The interesting thing was, though, I mean, Mercedes did the same thing as well. I mean, they started on the softs. It was basically the Mercedes and Daniel were all on the softs, and it didn't in all of the cases. It didn't have the desired effect. The idea was we'll start them off on the soft tyres, and they'll be able to make a few early positions on the opening few laps. Well, that clearly didn't happen for either Daniel or for Lewis, for that matter. I think George might have done slightly better, but either way, it wasn't a great strategy for any of them, and they all came in fairly early and changed tyres.
Yeah, and the excuse at RB was that there's debris in the radiators, and then consequently they put him on the mediums, and he did go up, but because they pitted him so early, he had to come in again, and then they went more soft tyres on, and then he circled around and went motherless last, and then did the fastest lap on another set of soft tyres. So I think.
Well, I think that last set of softs was a little bit of a goodbye present gift for him, from the team saying, "Look, I'm sorry that it's worked out the way that it has, but here you go. I mean, you're all but last anyway. I mean, there's no real difference between 16th and 17th and 18th under the circumstances. So come in, have a set of softs, and have a go at fastest lap." And because of how the tyres work in F1 these days, any team, just about, given that opportunity, can pluck the fastest lap away from the front runners. So.
Yeah, and as Daniel said afterwards, I think it was it was sort of half jokingly. If Max wins the championship by 1 point this year, Daniel's in for a very good Christmas present. So the thing is, I mean, like they might have some time together next year, because Max is still running around saying, he's got his nose out of joint because he can't say the naughty words, and he wants to say the naughty words, and he's saying if he can't say the naughty words, he might quit Formula One.
No, I think that's just him playing games. I wasn't aware that he quoted that, but I read something about Max might quit because he can't swear anymore. But I think he's got bigger fish to fry. I think if the Red Bull is markedly down on form, then he will quit. But I think swearing is a drop in the ocean for him. I don't think he'll quit over that.
It's also very ill to, like, as I said, I think I said last week, and you understand. I mean, when the drivers are in the car and they're driving, they have the jump into the team radio. somebody gets cut off suddenly and almost gets put into the wall, or they do get put into a wall, they're not going to sit there and say, "Oh gosh darn, I'm well that was a jolly that was a jolly bad thing to do, old chap." I mean, they're going to say what they feel, and I mean, in that case, the radios are on delay anyway, so there's zero.
And they can bleep it out.
Yeah, there's zero excuse for them to put that to air. But
well, they've chosen to put it to air.
Yeah,
they've made the choice to not censor it, so they have no interest in censoring it, so they want it.
And in Singapore, it was golly gosh, what darn, he's blocked me, and it was not nearly as fun as what it normally is.
Well, as I said, it's just as well as Gunther's gone now from Formula One, because he'd be a part of it as well. But I mean, like when they're sitting there, they are paid an awful lot of money. And the point is, I mean, sort of, I've been known to use a little bit of language in my time, and Doc's the same, and we're all the same. But we get onto a program every week, a live television show, which Channel 31 have asked us to sort of, we could go AO, but they want a show that they can basically put on at any time, so that they've got the flexibility to replay it. And they do. They replay the program on a Saturday afternoon in family-friendly time slot. So, they basically come to the compromise that we'll go PG. So, we can be a little bit edgy, but we can't be too edgy. And, they're in the same boat. I mean, when they're doing sort of media stuff, it shouldn't be too hard. One of the excuses I heard used today, I think, was the argument that because English isn't, necessarily, Max's first language or some of the other drivers' first language, that the impact of the words don't mean anything to them. They know their swear words, but they just, it's just another word to them, and they really don't realise the impact that it has on some people. But because there are kids watching, and they probably don't want them swearing. But I mean, it doesn't worry me what they say. But if you're that sort of a parent where it's like, oh no, don't listen to that little Johnny, then they might
kids
say,
going to listen to it.
Yeah,
there are a lot more offensive. There are words out there that are a lot more offensive than swear words.
Well, that's the point. I mean, are they going to sort of are they going to let that through as well? If they're going to let the sort of the general swear words, what happens if somebody uses some sort of racial epithet or something like that? It's like well, I didn't it's like it's free speech, man. It's like no, I'm not there. Jimmy's sort of saying that DR still might be in play, and I think this is why they're holding off by making any real decision so far. Because like if Checo does continue to do badly, they certainly have said that they desperately want him for Mexico. If he continues to do badly after Mexico, they might say, okay, Checo, you haven't reached the bar. You could go there. Daniel, jump on board for the last few races at least.
Because at the moment they're something like 20 points behind in the Constructors' Championship. So I think they want to win that as well, because they've been leading that up to a couple of races ago.
Well, it's also worth a hell of a lot of money to them as well. I mean, and at the moment, I mean, you've got the problem that McLaren have not only got what is now currently clearly the best car, but they've got two gun drivers, taking plenty of points. I mean, it was 1 and 3 this weekend. You imagine that they're going to be sort of 1 and 2, 1 and 3, or certainly in the top 3 or 4 for the rest of the season. So, and Max is playing a lone hand with a car that is not as good and is not to his liking as much as it was at the start of the year. So, if he's the only one, if Checo's sort of running around at the back of the pack and not picking up any points, or picking up only a handful of points, then
that crash at Baku could not have come at a worse time for Checo. I mean, sitting there in top 4 place with top 3 being, probably likely. Yeah, I mean, I suppose it was a choice.
Yeah, there's been as Phil's saying, sports sedan playing. Danny Rick will be joining Tony Rick in a double alpha sports sedan team. Now I've got Daniel's future plan. Daniel doesn't know this, but I think this would be the ideal scenario because this would be, in terms of Australia, this would be the pairing from heaven as far as the media were concerned. Next year, 2025, Mount Panorama, Bathurst 1000, wildcard entry, Triple Eight Racing, Craig Lowndes and Daniel Ricciardo,
Oh, wow.
two of the friendliest, most popular guys in Australia. Literally, the only two motorsport names that appear in the top 50 most popular sports people in Australia. Even to this, the only two motorsport names are Daniel Ricciardo and, well, this was up until Oscar Piastri. I imagine Oscar is probably there now, but certainly this time last year, it was Daniel Ricciardo and it was still Craig Lowndes. Just imagine what a promoter's dream. I mean, sort of in a Red Bull sponsored, Camaro, with added sponsorship from Colgate for the smile factor. It writes
Dear.
itself. It is a marketer's dream. So Triple Eight. I mean, if it happens, you remember you heard it here first. All we want is just. All I want is sort of to go up to Bathurst. Just give me a free 4 nights at the Ridges and some race tickets and a souvenir cap. That's all I want for that idea.
Oh, maybe we want to get a Ricciardo Ricciardello Ricciardo Ricciardello, Piastri, and let's say D'Alberto in a Ferrari for the Bathurst 12.
Well,
Yeah, you could certainly do that as well. That would be another popular one. There you got Alex Peroni is another who could jump on board, and
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
we got
Apparently not Joey Mawson. So
no.
Ugh. Oh,
He
you've got to feel for the guy.
Yes, that was boxers saying, sponsored by the Dentists of Australia, and as Phil is saying, then we can't show their faces if you know that particular advert. Rod is a dentist, so we can't show you his face. So we'll show you his bum instead.
Well, like an old joke of Jimmy Carr's, where Daniel Ricciardo started cleaning his teeth 8 years ago, and he's almost finished.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, he was obviously very miserable, but he still managed sort of a bit of self-deprecating humour and a bit of a smile. But it would be a shame if that's sort of how he's going out. It would be a shame. It would be great, I suppose, for him. I can't see him sort of deserving of another chance. I mean, he hasn't set the world on fire, but who knows if he gets behind the wheel of Checo's car for those last few runs and he does really, really well, then they might turn around and say, well, until they might want to give Isaac Hadjar another year of as a development driver or something like that, and Daniel can sort of can see out his career, say, okay, well, this is your farewell tour, Daniel. It's your last chance to go to all the Grands Prix and say goodbye.
Yeah, I can't see, because that sort of mentality is kind of giving up perhaps on the 2025 Constructors' Championship really early.
Well, yeah, I think that's the thing that they're still in. Well, it depends on how. Like Daniel did very well in the test apparently, and that's why Christian is keen to keep him. So if that's the case, they might think that he's going to be a safer bet than putting someone like someone untried like Isaac in there if they're not going to have. If they're not going to have Carlos on board, Sergio on board, Also, as Paul's saying, being of Dutch extraction, you have to word up the younger relatives about words not to use in general conversation. Yes, it seems that it is very much a Dutch thing. I mean, if you hear the Dutch commentary of Formula One, I mean, it is absolutely blue by international standards, even by Australian. It'd make Kevin bloody Wilson blush to hear some of the stuff that there are. But Phil's saying, how the hell did the team go half a second quicker? Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, I mean, it was a one lap, empty fuel tank, soft tyres, go out and win it or bin it, go get the fastest lap, go for it, and if you get it, great. If you don't, that's the thing, though. I mean, it's not as if he's had a year of crashing or anything. It's not as if he's like lost his skill. He's just basically in that car, just has no raw pace. He's and yeah.
Well, if he's not being Yuki Tsunoda, then he's not the number 3 driver in the Red Bull rankings.
But anyway, speaking of drivers who were giving it away, Tim Slade's announced his retirement, and it was from full-time supercar driving. So that's interesting. That frees up a spot for next year. I mean, it looked like he was going to be struggling to keep his position anyway at Premier Racing. So yeah, he's announced his retirement from full-time driving, and will probably be a very keenly sought after, or perhaps already. I haven't had time to read the story. I literally just got in sort of 20 minutes before we started after working all day at RMIT for the AFL show. So
I've had even less time than that.
Yeah, so I mean, I haven't really caught up with it. All I got was sort of all I saw was the headline that came up: Tim Slade announces retirement from full-time competition. So, but I imagine that he'll certainly be very popular for a co-driver's role next year. Whether he continues in other areas of the sport, this is the thing now. I mean, especially with the growth of GT3 and GT4, there'll be no shortage of opportunities for talented ex-supercar drivers to get a drive, you would think. So that's certainly the plan that Stefan Rattel always had, that it would be like Europe. You'd have your rich guys come in, buy the very expensive GT3 cars and go racing, and basically hire either a young up and coming driver or a recently retired gun driver to help them learn the ropes, and also help them pick up points. I mentioned before the VMRC is on at Calder this weekend, $15. So so I was going to go. We might have stuff on that. I don't know whether we'll have stuff. I'm pretty sure Roy is heading out there probably to do some filming. I'm not sure whether I'm going to make it, because at the moment there's a few issues with AASA and some of the things that they're requiring. So I'm probably at this stage not going to be out there. Not out, because it should be a good meeting. It's there's not sort of big fields or anything, but any chance to see cars going around Calder is good. The stock cars are going to be out there. And they're also going to do, as they did last year, they're going to run some exhibition parade laps on the Thunderdome I think it's on both Saturday and Sunday. I know the Saturday it's for sure, and I'm not sure whether they were talking about Sunday as well, but they've invited like anybody who raced on the Thunderdome, if they still have their car out there, and even if they don't want to race it in the stock car championship rounds, if they just want to go out and do some parade laps, if they've got old HQ Holdens, Oz cars, pretty much anything that raced at the Dome, take it out there and have some memories going around. Make sure your fillings are checked in, because you couldn't rattle them out of position. So it's going to be, according to according to Phil, it's going to be both days. It looks like we've lost Pete, unfortunately, at the moment, so we're waiting. So he'll get back at some stage. And speaking of local motorsport, we might as well get this out of the way now. Mark, you've got a big weekend, as we said, coming up. So tell us about that.
Oh, well, it's a mix, actually. We've got the Festival of Motorsport, which will take up around 3/4 of Saturday, which is not which is have the driving simulated suit packages, and there'll be lots of some roll racing, stunt shows, some sprints, happy laps, trade stalls and stuff, and then
a happy laps anything like happy endings.
See, this is, I think, what you were talking about before about, getting a little cheeky or a little blasé with language on here. But but no,
when I think of happy laps, I'm not thinking about car racing.
No, yeah. But Pete's back. But then in the afternoon, the fourth round of the QRDC kicks off, and it's also Enduro weekend. Like Production Sports are out there having a 1-hour race on Sunday, and we've got the 300-kilometer co-driver Enduro for the XL Cuppers. And we've got a few interesting There's always some interesting co-driver lineups.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, because we always see someone pop up for some unusual names. You go through the entry list and go, hang on.
Yeah, it's not unusual to have some Bathurst drivers show, some supercar drivers show up, but I'm not so sure there are any this year. But we do have Jared Hughes, for one, is joining the field. There's also Jalen Robotham. What was some of the others? No, the list isn't coming up like I wanted it to. I've been, I don't have the full entry list, but there's certainly some. There's always some fascinating. I'll find out some more when the tendency is I have to get the stuff on the day and warm up but yeah, there's like 1-hour co-driver enduro race for Production Sports cars as well, and that's got a fairly healthy entry list of its own. Plenty of Porsches and Mazda MX-5s and Toyota 86s, and there'll be at least one Audi GT3, an older one, obviously. But there's a couple, and there might be a couple of GT4s. There'll be a Ginetta or two, and a Partridge and a Petri, some Nissan GTRs. The always fascinating prod sports, and I'm trying and failing right at the moment to call up what the other categories are.
They're obviously promoting.
I thought I had it ready
as well as they do down here.
I'm sorry.
That's one of the things. I mean, that they should. We keep saying, we've been saying for years, they really need to get out there and promote these things. And I mean, they should. In an ideal world, I mean, you would have sort of like promotional stuff sitting there saying, hey, come this week to this big event, and here are some of the exciting drivers you'll see, and here's some of the fascinating cars that have been entered, but they really couldn't be bothered. I mean, we got the round of the state, the Motorsport Australia State Series running down at Phillip Island, and yet again, no one's interested in coming into the show to talk about it. It's like, do you want to come in and plug it? Oh, no, not really. Could you do it by Zoom? And it's like, no, we couldn't do it, I must admit, we saw today the football show had a Zoom interview, and as soon as it came up, I said to the guys, and that's why we don't do Zoom interviews on the show.
Supercarts was and the historic Trans Ams, Australian Trans Am series for older for 60s and 70s American muscle cars. They're the other two categories that are running this weekend. But yeah, the Prod Sports and the and particularly the XL Enduro race. Now the XL Enduro race is that's going to be capacity. So it's going to be a full field, over 30 cars, and at 300 kilometers, that means they have to do some refueling. And we've had some truly fascinating. There was a very, very early, a couple of years ago, there was an extremely early safety car. And one of the first into the pits was Alice Buckley, who's become more famous as a Toyota 86 racer in the meantime, and came into the pits and handed over to her co-driver, Nash Morris, and was the only one to do it. And that had to be right at the edge of fuel range, right at the absolute very outer edges of fuel range. And Morris would have had to have been doing fuel saving for the rest of the race, but they pulled the tactic and got the win as a result of it. It was these enduros can throw up all kinds of fascinating things.
Well, it's a bit like the race of the HQ race at Winton at the end of the year. That always used to attract like an interesting group of co-drivers. I mean, I think Craig Lowndes did it one year. I know Steve Richards was involved. Quite a few of the sports sedan guys would get together and find a car from somewhere and go racing together. It was always hugely popular. It's not quite as popular as it was, but it's. I think one of the reasons why is the XLs are sort of, sort of replaced them in some ways.
Yeah, that's changed the landscape of cheap one-make racing, and I use the word cheap.
Well, speaking of cheap one-make racing, we're going to get the Ferrari Challenge. A local version of that, and that's unfortunately that's going to cause all sorts of fun and games. It was already going to be. Sort of interesting whether TCR and Trans Am stayed on the what was the Speed Series categories, but it looks increasingly likely now that they're not going to have the space if they're running longer races for GT4, longer races for GT3. They're going to run long races, probably an hour. At least an hour's race for the Ferraris as well. Plus, if they keep the production cars around, who all want sort of at least 1 hour races, there's certainly going to be no room to have anything else on the card.
Well, Ferrari Challenge lines up with SRO in overseas markets, if memory serves.
Yes.
Like you'll notice that that their one-make rivals, like Lamborghini Super Trofeo and of course Carrera Cup, they run on the IMSA. In North America, they run with IMSA rather than with the SRO GT World Challenge America, and that's where I think I would have to look it up, and I think where Ferrari Challenge lives, and I'm pretty sure Ferrari Challenge runs on. Runs alongside the GT World Challenge Europe.
Yes, so also runs with the Asia Le Mans series too. I think the Asia series that they run, which is also because they've come down here for a couple. They had that meeting at the Bend, and they're going to have a similar all Ferrari meeting at Sydney Motorsport Park as part of the thing. And also the other interesting thing is that they're going to be their opening round is going to be at the Bathurst 12 Hours, and apparently because of the crowded schedule there, they're going to get one very short, sort of 120-minute practice session, 120-minute qualifying session, and then they're going to unleash all of these amateur drivers in very, very fast cars on Mount Panorama with very, very little time to prepare for it. So, that could be a lot of fun. It could be certainly for local mechanics and panel beaters. It'll be a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, can you panel beat a Ferrari? I mean, can you panel beat a Ferrari? Is it actually possible?
No, you can panel beat anything if you want to.
Well, I'm not sure you can do that with carbon, but anyway.
Paul's pointing out as well. This is interesting. Yeah, this is a case in point. Like one race, I have put in a request to talk to somebody from one raceway, Steve Shelley or somebody, and once again nobody's got back to me because this will be the first event coming up on once in the same weekend as Bathurst, unfortunately. So that's a bit of a shame, even though it's bikes, rather than cars. It'd be nice to see that track open on a weekend with when it's sort of the main thing happening, particularly in New South Wales. It's looking like it's going to be a really
well, maybe they
interesting,
want a lower profile, a soft opening, so to speak. I mean, that actually makes sense to me to have something with a bit less pressure on it.
But then it's still a round of the Australian Superbike Championship, so in terms of two wheels, that's as high as it gets in Australia. So it's not as if it's like a round of the New South Wales State Series or something. It's it is a national championship and a very professional one at that. So, but it'll be interesting to have a look at what's happening with that track.
Would Aussie racing cars be on that one because they support a few Superbike events, don't they?
Yeah, well, they were certainly down at Phillip Island just recently, but I don't know. Paul might know. He's also pointing out, and I saw this when I got another thing when I saw when I got home. The annual supercars complaining about Albert Park. Apparently Bathurst is the week after. Okay, so next week is. I thought Bathurst was next week. But it's the week after, is it?
Oh, well, it's the week after the. It's the week after the NRL Grand Final.
Yeah.
And there's only one football final this weekend.
Oh, okay. So there you go. Because I was totally blissfully unaware of whatever happens in the wonderful world of rugby league.
Well, yeah, because the New South Wales long weekend is next weekend, and which was Bathurst weekend. Up until the Sydney Olympics, and then the NRL decided to steal it.
And also, Tony Cochran didn't want it going up against the NRL, so he changed it.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, there was a few years where it actually ran the same weekend as what was then the VFL Grand Final, and that certainly really knocked things around. It's interesting to note that I haven't seen the ratings. It would be nice to get the ratings from Sandown 500, but unfortunately it seems that the pay TV provider in Foxtel has withdrawn from the OzTam ratings because they're just not available anywhere that I can find. All of the places that you used to get them, like Media Week and TV Tonight and all the rest of it, Mumbarella and all that, just don't have any ratings for pay TV anymore. But when you consider that over 3.3 million people watched the Geelong Brisbane preliminary final last week, then you can see why people are saying we need to get supercars back on free-to-air, because all the talk about, nobody watches free-to-air television anymore, that is complete bullshit, because there's no way that they've ever got anything like over 3 million people watching anything at all
I think
on pay TV.
I think that's been one of the issues with TCR. Like, supercars in their various iterations have had a long history with free-to-air, but TCR only got a very short life with free-to-air, so they haven't got the traction that.
And it was on the streaming on their secondary channels and the streaming services as well. I mean, it's free to air because there's still a lot of people. I mean, it was funny. I was talking to somebody last Friday, and a woman who was very, very angry about the whole existence of streaming, because apparently one of her favourite programs had been moved off of Channel 10 and was now on one of the secondary channels, and she just couldn't, it was like, they said to get some sort of a box you're going to plug. I don't have the bloody money, and how the hell do you get a box? What do you plug this bloody stupid box into? And she was just furious, because basically if her old television couldn't get it, she didn't want to know about it.
Well, at the risk of going off topic, during the Paralympics, I wanted to watch Murderball, the wheelchair version of rugby,
Wheelchair rugby.
rugby union, and they kept putting it on 9 Now, and you've got to log in and you've got to have a password, and I just couldn't be bothered.
That really pisses me off on 9 Now, because I had the same sort of thing. I mean, during the Olympics, there were a couple of sports that I wanted. I looked at nothing on Channel 9, and I thought, oh, hang on, the European handball will be on there. Because believe it or not, I used to play European handball when I was almost fit and healthy, and obviously a lot younger. And so I like to have a look at it. It's a great game, really fun game, very fast, very dynamic. And it was on there, but I just hooked. Oh yeah, they're playing now. I hooked up and please enter your scan a QR code. Go to your computer and type in. And I couldn't be bought. Nah, bugger it. And I just went back to watching cat videos on YouTube.
Excuse me. You just said bugger. We have to put you before the stewards.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to the FIA for the use of that disgusting word. So I will apologise.
Too late. You've been assigned a drive-through penalty.
Yes, community service. Trust me, I'm already doing community service right now. So every Tuesday night we're doing that, and I did some more today. But it was fun. So if you're in Melbourne, watch. I'm not sure what time tomorrow it goes to air, but have a look for the Sports Desk AFL Grand Final special. And they did a really good job in terms of first time that they'd been in front of the television cameras, and they did a really good job. Paul saying Pro MX and Superbikes running on SBS get good numbers on Speed Week, which is another case in point. I mean, you're not going to get 3 million, but you're still going to get bloody good compared with pay TV. I mean, there was a time, when there were not as many pay TV or streaming providers around, where in Melbourne we were outrating the supercars on Fox. I mean, they were getting like 28,000 viewers on Fox for supercars. That's in Melbourne, and we were getting 53,000. So any idea that people have stopped watching free to air television is complete bullshit. There you go. There's another one for us. It's another one into the swear jar for in some big chicken or whatever his name is.
Oh dear. Well, you mentioned the Formula One drivers could afford to fund a swear jar.
Yeah, I think so. It'd be.
That would be. They'd probably. You could almost set it up like a like the toll at the bridge, where you used to have to throw a bunch of coins into the slot, and as you go through, and that's your swear jar.
Well, they could put it towards a charity or something. I mean, come up with a charity every year and say, okay, there's a you get it's going to cost you this much for the F word and this much for the and they could raise a lot of money from over the course of the year. Hey, listen, we might call it a day a bit early because, as I said, I've had a hell of a long day, and as I said, I've literally got a gig to do at 10 o'clock tonight, so I'm not going to see. As I said, I started at 5 o'clock this morning, and I'm going through until about 2 o'clock tomorrow morning as well. So I'm going to be absolutely fried, I think. So I think you're probably struggling there, Phil. I mean, I think they'd need more than 1 year.
Well, if they included Jos Verstappen as well as Max, then it could get two.
Yeah, that would get rid of the national debt. Throw Gunther in as well, and I mean we're all taken care of. Okay, everybody, thanks for joining us. As I said, Doc is on his way up to Sydney for a wedding or something, and don't know what Richard's doing. But anyway, thank you for joining us. Be watching Tuesday night on In Pit Lane because I have no idea what we're doing. I know that Doc's not going to be with us then because he's still celebrating in New South Wales, or he's doing something, but he's taking the week off. So at the moment it'll be me and probably Pete, and I don't know, we might bring sort of Jason on board and Ness, and we might just bring the whole crew in, and we'll just I don't know what we'll do actually, but we have been trying to get some people in for next Tuesday, and once again it's becoming increasingly difficult because drivers are simply not even remotely interested in coming in and promoting the sport. So bit of a shame, but we will do what we do and we'll get through. But as I said, if you haven't seen our interview with Lisa Crampton from this Tuesday night, and also our band, Miss Fribby and the Femmes, go back and have a look at it. And Lisa is very, very present. And I think the interesting thing is there's been a lot of changes at Motorsport Australia, and I'm sort of getting an idea of what's going on. I think it's going to be very good news for local motorsport because there's a lot of very, very well credentialed people suddenly coming across and joining the sport. And to get someone like Lisa, I mean, as she said, she probably could have. She had job opportunities in Formula One. She definitely had job opportunities in WEC and in other major categories around the world, but she's chosen to come back to Australia and put her lot in with Motorsport Australia. And we've also got Bruce Asprey as just so if you know Bruce, a long-time competitor, very heavily involved in senior management at Jayco Caravans. He has now joined for the specific reason of looking after state-level motorsport. And I think that's going to be interesting as well because Bruce has been around for a long time and has been heavily involved in state-level motorsport. So you're getting someone who knows what he's talking about there and has a very impressive CV in business as well. Okay, everyone, we'll catch you next week on Full Course Yellow. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Have a look out for some of the highlights from the Battle of the Bricks for the IMSA hypercars. They raced the Indianapolis Motor Speedway last weekend in the wet. And a fabulous result for the BMW team.
Lisa was saying, Lisa was very happy about that week. She used to work for the BMW team, so she was very happy about that. We were talking about that on the show on Tuesday night. She was delighted to see how well they did over there in the North American Sports Car Championship. So, that was really good.
But like with the World Endurance Championship, with one round to go, the senior Penske Porsche team has one hand on the trophy already with significant points lead. So that would be a very impressive double.
It'll be a very good year. It'll be a very, very good year for Penske and Porsche. And Porsche having the other interesting bit of news that's come out today, and nothing's been confirmed, but apparently Lamborghini are reassessing whether they continue to be involved at least at the World Endurance Championship level, because there's the requirement to have two cars next year is certainly obviously added to the expense. The other problem that they've got, and this could be something that works into Formula One and Audi as well, but they're closing, the Volkswagen Group have lost a lot of money. They're closing a lot of factories. They're sacking a lot of workers, and a lot of the people in government and in the sort of the media in Germany are saying, well, you're sacking all these workers and you're closing all these factories, and yet you found the money to go Formula One racing. How does that work out? And the last time this happened, that's what cost years ago, because they just said, look, it would look very, very bad for us to be spending all this money, on bread and circuses going around chasing the Formula One championship at the same time, and we're telling thousands and thousands of workers we can't afford you anymore. Okay, we'll see you next week, everybody. Till then, bye for now. See you later.